Moving into the main house felt like crossing a threshold I couldn't uncross. The guest house had been a buffer, a space that allowed me to maintain some emotional distance from the reality of my marriage. Now, as I stood in Yi-won's bedroom, our bedroom, surrounded by my unpacked boxes, that distance evaporated. The room was beautiful, all clean lines and muted colors, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Yi-won had cleared out half the closet for me, made space in the bathroom, even bought new bedding in colors he thought I'd like. "I want you to feel at home here," he'd said that morning before leaving for a meeting. "Change anything you want. This is your space now, too." But it didn't feel like my space. It felt like I was playing house in someone else's life, wearing a costume that didn't quite fit. Min-jae arrived around noon to help me unpack, armed with coffee and unsolicited advice. "So you're really doing this," she said, hanging up my clothes in the massive closet. "Full commitment mode." "That was always the plan, wasn't it? We got married. This is just making it real." Real would have been starting here from the beginning. This feels like damage control. I couldn't argue with that. Yi-won wants to try, to see if we can build something genuine. "And what do you want?" I sat on the edge of the bed, a California king that suddenly seemed enormous. "I want to stop feeling like I'm drowning. I want to wake up and not have the first thought be about Tae-hyun. I want to be the wife Yi-won deserves." That's a lot of wants. Notice how none of them are about what you actually feel. My feelings are a mess. They're not helpful right now. Min-jae sat beside me, putting an arm around my shoulders. "Amara, you can't logic your way out of emotion. Trust me, I've tried. It doesn't work." "Then what am I supposed to do? I made a commitment. I can't just walk away because it's hard." "No, but you can be honest about what you're feeling. With yourself, if not with Yi-won." I leaned my head on her shoulder. "I'm scared. I'm scared I made a terrible mistake. I'm scared I'm going to hurt Yi-won. I'm scared that what I feel for Tae-hyun will destroy everything I've built." "What do you feel for Tae-hyun?" "I don't know. Anger, confusion, attraction. God, Min-jae, when he looks at me, I feel like I'm 24 again, falling for him in Singapore. But that's just nostalgia, right? It has to be." "Does it? Or is it unfinished business?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Tae-hyun. "I'm leaving for Shanghai tomorrow. Dad told you." My chest tightened. He mentioned it. "Can we talk before I go? Please. One last conversation." Min-jae read over my shoulder. "Don't do it. Nothing good can come from that." "I have to. I can't let him leave with things like this between us." "Things like what?" "Unresolved sexual tension and emotional baggage. Those are exactly the things you should let go unresolved." But I was already typing. "When?" "Tonight, 8 p.m., the garden gazebo." "Okay." Min-jae groaned. "You're going to regret this." "Probably, but I'll regret it more if I don't go." Yi-won came home around 6, looking exhausted. The Busan project was consuming him, long days filled with meetings and negotiations. Part of me felt guilty for adding more stress to his life, but a larger part was relieved. His absence gave me space to breathe, to not have to perform the role of devoted wife. We had dinner together, making awkward small talk about our days. He told me about a zoning issue they were facing. I told him about a promising lead on a research grant. We were polite, careful, like strangers at a dinner party. "I saw you moved your things in," he said as we finished eating. "I did. Thank you for making space for me." "Of course, this is your home." He paused, his wine glass halfway to his lips. "I know this is an adjustment for both of us, but I appreciate you trying." "I want this to work, Yi-won. I really do." "Then we'll make it work." He reached across the table and took my hand, his thumb brushing my knuckles. "I spoke with Tae-hyun today. He's flying back to Shanghai tomorrow afternoon." "He told me." Something flickered in Yi-won's eyes. "You two have been talking." "Just briefly. He wanted to say goodbye." "I see." He released my hand. "I think it's for the best, him leaving. It will give us all some distance, time to adjust to this new reality." "You'll miss him." "I will, but but I can visit Shanghai. And he'll come back for holidays. This isn't forever, it's just necessary right now. The guilt twisted deeper. Tae-hyun was being exiled because of me, because of a relationship that had ended 2 years ago, and I was letting it happen. After dinner, Yi-won retreated to his study to work, giving me the perfect excuse to slip out to the garden. The gazebo was at the far edge of the property, a beautiful octagonal structure surrounded by bare winter trees. String lights had been wound through the rafters, casting a soft glow. Tae-hyun was already there, leaning against the railing, looking out at the Seoul skyline in the distance. He'd changed from his business attire into jeans and a thick sweater, looking more like the Jay I remembered than the corporate heir I'd met at my wedding. "You came," he said without turning around. "You asked me to." He turned then, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. "I'm leaving tomorrow, back to Shanghai indefinitely. Dad thinks it's best." "Is it?" "Probably, being here, seeing you with him. It's torture, Amara. I thought I could handle it, thought I could be mature and supportive. But I can't. Every time he touches you, looks at you, I want to—" He stopped himself, running a hand through his hair. "I needed to see you one more time, to say the things I couldn't say at the coffee shop." "Tae-hyun, I don't think." "Please, just let me say this, and then I'll go. Then I'll stay in Shanghai and let you build your life with my father, and I'll try to forget you again." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. When I left Singapore 2 years ago, it destroyed me. I told myself it was for the best, that you'd move on and find someone better. But I never did. I've dated other women, tried to feel what I felt with you, and it's never been the same. You were it for me, Amara. You still are. Don't say that. Why not? It's the truth. And you deserve to know the truth before you commit to a marriage that might be the biggest mistake of your life. It's not a mistake. Yi-won is a good man. I know he is. He's my father, I love him. But love isn't enough, is it? You don't love him. You respect him, you care about him, but you don't love him. Not the way you loved me. Loved, past tense. Is it past tense? He stepped closer. Because when I look at you, I see the same woman who laughed at my terrible jokes in Singapore, who stayed up all night debating philosophy, who made me want to be better than I was. Tell me that woman is gone, that you feel nothing when you look at me, and I'll leave. I'll go to Shanghai and never come back except for holidays. I'll smile and call you mom at family dinners and pretend my heart isn't breaking. You can't call me that. Why not? That's what you are now, my stepmother, my father's wife, the woman I can't have. The words hung between us, sharp and painful. I should have walked away. Should have told him he was being inappropriate, that this conversation was dangerous. But I couldn't move. When I saw you at the wedding, he continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, wearing that dress, smiling at my father the way you used to smile at me, I realized I'd been lying to myself for 2 years. I wasn't over you. I'll never be over you. Tae-hyun, please. Do you love him? The question was direct, demanding. Not care about him, not respect him. Do you love Kang Jae-won the way a wife should love her husband? I could, given time. That's not what I asked. No, the admission came out as a whisper. No, I don't love him, not yet, but I could learn to. Love can grow. Or you could stop pretending and admit that you married the wrong man. There is no right man. You left me, remember? You got on a plane and disappeared from my life. I grieved you, Tae-hyun. I mourned what we had. And when your father offered me a chance at something stable, something real, I took it. That's not a crime. No, but it's not fair either. Not to him, not to you, and definitely not to me. He was so close now I could feel the heat radiating from his body. If you'd known who I was, who my father was, would you have still said yes? I don't know, probably not. Then this marriage is built on a lie. Not intentionally, but the foundation is still false. You can't build a life on that. Watch me. Amara. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to show up after 2 years and tell me I'm making a mistake. You made your choice when you left Singapore. I'm making mine now. And if your choice is wrong, then I'll live with it. But at least I'll have tried to build something real instead of running away when things got hard. The barb hit its mark. Pain flashed across his face. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I was yelling now, all the frustration and confusion of the past week pouring out. You want to talk about unfair? How about the universe throwing us back together in the worst possible way? How about having feelings for two men who are father and son? How about trying to do the right thing when there is no right thing? Then stop trying to do the right thing and just feel. What do you want, Amara? Not what you should want, not what's logical or practical. What does your heart want? The question broke something in me. It doesn't matter what my heart wants. I made a commitment. To a man you don't love. To a man I respect. A man who deserves better than a wife who's pinning for her ex-boyfriend. Then give him better. End this now before you're in too deep. Annul the marriage, tell him it was a mistake, and let us all move forward. And then what? You and I ride off into the sunset. That's not a fairy tale, Tae-hyun. That's a nightmare. Your father would never forgive us. We'd destroy your relationship with him. Maybe, but at least we'd be honest. At least we'd be together. The longing in his voice nearly undid me. We can't be together. You're his son. I'm also the man who loves you, who never stopped loving you. Before I could respond, before I could think, he closed the distance between us and kissed me. It was nothing like Yi-won's careful, respectful kisses. This was desperate, hungry, 2 years of longing compressed into a single moment. His hands cupped my face, his lips moving against mine with a familiarity that made my knees weak. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his sweater, pulling him closer even as my mind screamed that this was wrong, so wrong. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. We can't do this, I whispered, even as every cell in my body wanted to kiss him again. I know. You need to go to Shanghai. We need to forget this happened. Can you forget? Because I can't. I'll never forget. I stepped back, putting necessary distance between us. You have to try. We both have to try. For Yi-won's sake. What about for our sake? There is no our sake. There's only him, and he matters more than whatever this is. Tae-hyun looked at me for a long moment. His eyes filled with such sadness that I almost changed my mind, almost said forget the marriage, forget everything. Let's just be together. But I didn't. Goodbye, Amara, he said finally. I hope he makes you happy. I hope this gamble pays off. Because if it doesn't, you'll have thrown away everything for a lie. Then he walked away, leaving me alone in the gazebo with the taste of him still on my lips and the weight of what I'd done settling on my shoulders. I didn't go back to the main house immediately. I sat in the gazebo for hours, trying to process what had happened, trying to convince myself I'd made the right choice. When I finally returned, it was past midnight. The house was dark except for a light in the study. Yi-won was there, working on his laptop, a glass of whiskey beside him. He looked up when I entered, his expression unreadable. I was getting worried. Where were you? Walking, thinking. I needed to clear my head. He studied me for a moment, and I wondered if he could see the guilt written on my face, if I smelled like Tae-hyun's cologne. Did you see Tae-hyun? He mentioned he was going to say goodbye. The question was casual, but there was an edge to it. Yes, we talked. About. This was my chance. I could tell him everything. The gazebo, the kiss, the confession. I could blow up this marriage before it really began and deal with the fallout honestly. But when I opened my mouth, what came out was about him leaving, about giving us space to build our marriage. He wants you to be happy. It wasn't entirely a lie. Those things had been part of our conversation, just not the most important part. Yi-won's shoulders relaxed slightly. He's a good son, even when it costs him. The guilt nearly choked me. Yi-won, Come here. He stood and pulled me into an embrace, his arms warm and solid around me. I know this has been difficult. The past week has been a nightmare for all of us, but Tae-hyun leaving will help. We'll have time and space to figure out who we are to each other without that complication. I let him hold me, breathing in his scent, different from Tae-hyun's, cleaner, more subtle. He kissed the top of my head, gentle and affectionate. I care about you, Amara, more than I thought I would. I want this to work. I want that too, I said, and it was true. I did want it to work, I just wasn't sure it could. That night, I slept in our bedroom for the first time. Yi-won held me, his breathing eventually evening out into sleep while I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, Tae-hyun would leave for Shanghai. Tomorrow, I could start trying to build a real marriage. Tomorrow, I could try to forget the taste of forbidden kisses and the feeling of being in the arms of the man I couldn't have. Tae-hyun left the next afternoon without saying goodbye. I watched from the window as the car took him away, feeling like a piece of my heart was going with him. Yi-won stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder, not knowing that I was mourning. "It's for the best," he said quietly. "I know. We'll visit Shanghai soon, once things settle down here." Of course. But we both knew it was a polite fiction. Tae-hyun wouldn't come back unless absolutely necessary, and we wouldn't visit. The distance was the point. Over the next few weeks, Yi-won and I fell into a routine. We had breakfast together, spent our days working him on the Busan project, me on my research, and had dinner together in the evenings. He was attentive, thoughtful, asking about my work, encouraging my ambitions. Slowly, carefully, he began introducing physical intimacy into our marriage. A hand on my lower back as we walked. A kiss goodnight that lingered a bit longer. Arms around me as we watched movies. It was gentle, respectful, giving me time to adjust. And I tried. God, I tried. I returned his kisses, curled into his embraces, willed myself to feel the passion I'd felt with Tae-hyun. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, I thought maybe I could love this man. He was kind, intelligent, everything a partner should be. But at night, alone with my thoughts, I'd remember the gazebo, the kiss, the way Tae-hyun had looked at me like I was his entire world. I threw myself into my research, using work as an escape. Yi-won had made good on his promise. He'd introduced me to contacts at every major university in Korea, pulled strings to get my proposals reviewed by the right people. Within a month, I had not one but 2 research grants, a laboratory space at Seoul National University, and a team of grad students eager to work with me. My work on sustainable building materials was finally getting the attention it deserved. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I felt hollow. Min-jae noticed, of course. We met for lunch one day in January at the same Pajangmatcha where this had all started. "You look terrible," she said, pouring us both soju. "Thanks, you always know just what to say." "I mean it. You've lost weight, you have dark circles under your eyes, and you smile like someone's holding you at gunpoint. What's going on?" "Nothing, just busy with the new research." "Bullshit. This is about Tae-hyun, isn't it? He left a month ago, and you've been a zombie ever since." I took a long drink. I kissed him, the night before he left, in the garden. I kissed him, Min-jae, and it felt more right than anything I've felt with Yi-won. She nearly choked on her soju. "You what?" "He kissed me first, but I kissed him back, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it." "Did you tell Yi-won?" "No, how could I? Hey husband, I'm in love with your son and I can't stop thinking about him. That would destroy him." "So instead you're destroying yourself." Min-jae grabbed my hands. "Amara, you can't live like this. You have to make a choice." I made a choice. I chose Yi-won. I'm his wife. Being his wife isn't the same as wanting to be his wife. You're miserable. I'll get over it. People do it all the time. Marriages based on respect and partnership, they work. Love isn't everything. But it's something. And you're denying yourself even the possibility of it because you feel obligated to a man you've known for 4 months. He's been good to me. He deserves a wife who actually wants to be with him, not someone martyring herself out of guilt. The words stung because they were true. I don't know what to do, Min-jae. If I leave, I destroy Yi-won and ruin his relationship with his son. If I stay, I live a lie. There's no good option. There's honesty. You could tell Yi-won the truth and let him decide what he wants to do with it. And if he wants to stay married, then you figure it out, together, like partners are supposed to. I thought about her words all the way home. Maybe she was right. Maybe honesty was the only way forward, even if it destroyed everything. But when I arrived at the estate, I found Yi-won in the study, staring at his laptop with a strange expression. "What's wrong?" I asked. He turned the laptop to show me. An email from Tae-hyun's assistant, CCing Yi-won on a meeting request for next month. "He's coming back," Yi-won said quietly, "for the Busan project launch. He's been working on the financial structuring from Shanghai, and he needs to be here for the final presentations to investors." My heart started racing. When? February 15th, 3 weeks from now. He'll be here for at least a week, maybe longer depending on how negotiations go. 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks before I'd see Tae-hyun again, before I'd have to face what I'd been trying so hard to forget. "How do you feel about that?" I asked carefully. Yi-won was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I'm worried. Things have been good between us, Amara. We've been building something. But when he comes back..." He trailed off, leaving the fear unspoken. "When he comes back, nothing will change," I said firmly. "What you and I have is separate from him." "Is it? Because sometimes I look at you, and you seem 1,000 miles away, and I wonder if you're thinking about him." The directness of it caught me off guard. "Yi-won, I'm not stupid, Amara. I know you have history with my son. I know that history doesn't just disappear because we got married. What I need to know is if you're actually here with me, or if part of you is still in Singapore with him." This was it, my moment of truth. I could lie, could tell him I was completely committed, that Tae-hyun was just a memory, could preserve this marriage, this life I'd built, at the cost of my honesty. Or I could tell him the truth and deal with the consequences. I took a deep breath. "I'm trying to be here with you. I want to be here with you. But you're right, part of me is still caught up in what Tae-hyun and I had. Not because I want to be, but because it's unfinished business. We never got closure, never got to properly end things. And then I married you, and it all got complicated." Yi-won's expression was unreadable. "Do you love him?" "I don't know. I love who he was, who we were together. But that was 2 years ago. People change. I've changed. What I feel now is confused, tangled up with guilt and nostalgia and desire for something I can't have." "And what you feel for me?" "Respect, genuine care, gratitude, the beginning of something that could be love if I let it grow." "But not love, not yet." "No, not yet, I'm sorry." He stood, walking to the window, his back to me. "I appreciate your honesty, even if it's not what I wanted to hear." "Yi-won, I think I knew. From the beginning, really. You were too practical about this marriage, too willing to agree to an arrangement without love. I told myself it was fine, that respect and partnership were enough. But I was lying to myself as much as you were lying to me." "I never lied." "You did, maybe not with words, but with actions. Every time you kissed me and thought about him. Every time you smiled and I could see the sadness behind it. Every time you said you wanted this marriage to work but couldn't quite meet my eyes." Tears burned behind my eyes. "I'm sorry. I've tried so hard to be what you need." "I don't want you to try. I want you to want to be here. There's a difference." He turned to face me. "When Tae-hyun comes back, we're going to have a conversation, all 3 of us, and we're going to figure this out once and for all." "Figure what out?" "Whether this marriage can survive. Whether you and he can be in the same room without wanting each other. Whether I can live with a wife who's in love with my son." "I'm not." Don't lie to spare my feelings. I'd rather have painful truth than comfortable fiction." He walked past me toward the door, then paused. "I'll sleep in the guest house tonight. Give us both some space to think." Then he was gone, and I was alone in the study, the weight of my confession settling over me like a shroud. The next 3 weeks were torture. Yi-won was polite but distant, treating me like a business partner rather than a wife. We had meals together, discussed logistics, maintained appearances. But the warmth we'd been building was gone, replaced by careful courtesy. I knew I should feel relieved. The truth was out, no more pretending. But instead, I felt like I was losing something precious, something I hadn't fully appreciated until it was slipping away. My research became my refuge. I spent long hours at the university, running experiments, writing papers, anything to avoid the awkwardness at home. My team was making real progress on the bio-based polymers, and we had interest from several construction companies for pilot projects. It should have been the highlight of my career. Instead, it felt like a consolation prize for a life I'd ruined. Min-jae tried to be supportive, but even she was running out of patience. "You need to make a decision," she said one evening over video call. "You can't live in this limbo forever." "What decision? I'm married. That decision's already made." "Is it? Because Yi-won basically gave you an out. He said you need to figure out if this marriage can survive. That's not a man who's committed to making it work. That's a man who's waiting for you to be honest about what you really want." "What I really want is impossible." "Why? Because it's complicated. Because it might hurt people. Life is complicated, Amara. Love is messy. You can't avoid it just because it's hard." "This isn't some romance novel, Min-jae. This is real life. Real people with real consequences." "Exactly. Real people who deserve real happiness, including you." But happiness felt like a luxury I didn't deserve. February 15th arrived cold and gray, Seoul wrapped in a late winter storm. I stood at the window of the study, watching the gate, knowing that any minute now, Tae-hyun's car would pull up, knowing that everything was about to change. Yi-won came up behind me, his presence solid and familiar. "He'll be here soon," he said quietly. "I know. Are you ready for this?" Was I, ready to see the man I couldn't stop thinking about, ready to face the mess we'd all made? "No, but I don't think I have a choice." "You always have a choice, Amara. That's what I've learned these past weeks. We all have choices, and we all have to live with the consequences." Before I could ask what he meant, headlights swept across the driveway. Tae-hyun's car. My heart started racing as I watched him get out, taller than I remembered, moving with that familiar confident grace. He looked up at the house, and even from this distance, I could feel the weight of his gaze. "Let's go meet him," Yi-won said. "Together as a family." The word felt wrong in my mouth, but I followed him downstairs anyway. Tae-hyun was in the entryway when we arrived, shaking snow from his coat. He looked thinner, tired, with dark circles under his eyes that matched my own. When our eyes met, the world seemed to stop. "Dad," he said, embracing Yi-won. "Good to see you." "You too, son. How was the flight?" "Long, delayed in Tokyo because of the weather." Then he turned to me, and I saw everything I'd been trying to forget reflected in his eyes. Longing, regret, desperate hope. "Amara, you look well." "You too." We stood there, the three of us, the tension so thick I could barely breathe. "Why don't we all sit down?" Yi-won said, gesturing to the living room. "We have a lot to talk about." And as I followed them into the living room, as I sat on the couch with my husband on one side and my ex-boyfriend, my stepson, on the other, I realized that Min-jae was right. It was time to make a choice. The question was whether I had the courage to choose honestly, or whether I'd keep lying to all of us about what I really wanted. Yi-won poured us each a drink, whiskey for him and Tae-hyun, wine for me. His hands were steady, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. "I think we all know why we're here," he began, settling into the chair across from us. "These past months have been complicated, for all of us, and I think it's time we stopped pretending and started being honest." Tae-hyun and I exchanged glances, but neither of us spoke. "Amara," Yi-won continued, his voice gentle but firm. "I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer truthfully. Not what you think I want to hear, not what's practical or logical. The truth." My hands trembled around my wine glass. "Okay. If you could rewrite the past 3 months, knowing everything you know now, would you still marry me?" The question hung in the air, impossible and necessary. I looked at Yi-won, this good, kind man who'd offered me everything I thought I wanted. Then I looked at Tae-hyun, who was watching me with such intensity I could barely breathe. And I realized that the answer had been clear all along. I'd just been too afraid to admit it. "No," I whispered. "No, I wouldn't. Not because you're not wonderful or because our marriage couldn't work, but because it wouldn't be fair to you. You deserve someone who loves you completely, without reservation. Someone who doesn't think about your son when you kiss her. Someone who chooses you first, always. Yi-won's eyes closed briefly, pain flashing across his face. But when he opened them again, there was something else there too, relief. "Thank you for your honesty," he said quietly. "I think I've known that for weeks now, but I needed to hear you say it." "I'm so sorry," I said, tears streaming down my face now. "I wanted so badly to make it work, to be the wife you deserved. But I can't, and you deserve better than someone who's just trying." "I do," he agreed, "and so do you." He turned to his son. "Both of you do." Tae-hyun had been silent through this exchange, but now he spoke, his voice rough. "Dad, I never meant for any of this to happen. I never meant to fall in love with someone you marry, if I'd known." "If you'd known what? You wouldn't have fallen for her. Love doesn't work that way, son. Trust me, I know." Yi-won stood, walking to the window. "I'm not angry with either of you. Not anymore. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending this could work. Tired of holding on to something that was never really mine." "What are you saying?" I asked. He turned back to face us. "I'm saying I release you from this marriage, both of you from the guilt and obligation. I'll file for an annulment on the grounds that the marriage was entered into under false pretenses, which is true in a way. We'll handle it quietly, minimize any scandal. You'll keep the research funding, the connections I've made for you. Consider it a parting gift." "Yi-won, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. For my own peace of mind, if nothing else. I can't be married to someone who's in love with my son, and I can't watch my son torture himself over a woman he can't have. This is the only solution that gives everyone a chance at happiness." "What about you?" Tae-hyun asked quietly. "What about your happiness?" "My happiness is knowing that both of you have a chance at something real, something I had once with your mother." He looked at me, his expression soft. "I did care about you, Amara. I think, given time and different circumstances, I could have loved you. But you were right, love can't be forced. It either exists or it doesn't." I stood, crossing to him, taking his hands. "You're an incredible man, Kang Jae-won. Any woman would be lucky to have you. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed." "You were exactly what I needed, a wake-up call. A reminder that I'm still alive, still capable of wanting companionship. You gave me that gift, even if the relationship couldn't last." He squeezed my hands, then released them. "Now go, both of you, talk, figure out what you want. I need some time alone." Tae-hyun stood. "Dad." "Go, son, and Tae-hyun." He waited until his son met his eyes. "Don't waste this chance. Don't let pride or fear keep you from happiness. I did that for years after your mother died, and I regret every empty day." Then he walked out, leaving Tae-hyun and me alone in the living room, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. "So," Tae-hyun said finally, "we're free." "Are we? Your father just gave us his blessing, but that doesn't erase the weirdness of it all. I was married to your father. That's always going to be part of our story." "I know, and it's not ideal. But Amara, I meant what I said in the gazebo. I love you. I've loved you for 2 years, and I'll keep loving you for as long as you'll let me. And if I can't get past this, the guilt, the complications." He crossed to me, cupping my face in his hands. "Then we deal with it, together. No more running, no more disappearing. We face it head on." "I don't know if I can do this, Tae-hyun. Be with you after everything that's happened." "Yes, you do. You knew the moment you saw me at the wedding. You knew in the coffee shop, in the gazebo, every moment we've been in the same room. We're inevitable, Amara. The question is whether you're brave enough to accept it." I looked up at him, at this man who'd broken my heart and put it back together, who'd complicated my life in ways I never could have imagined. And I realized he was right. This had always been inevitable. "I'm scared," I whispered. "Me too, but I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." Then he kissed me, and this time there was no guilt, no hiding. Just the two of us, finally free to be together. When we broke apart, I was crying and laughing at the same time. "This is insane. Your father just gave us permission to date after I was married to him for 2 months." 3 months. And yes, it's insane. We're going to need therapy, probably. Definitely a good story for our kids when they ask how we met. Kids. Too soon, he grinned, and I saw a flash of the J I'd fallen for in Singapore. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. How about we start with dinner? Dinner sounds perfect. We left the estate hand in hand, stepping out into the Seoul night. Snow was still falling, blanketing the city in white. It felt like a new beginning, a chance to start over without the weight of secrets and lies. Where should we go? Tae-hyun asked. Somewhere we've never been, somewhere that's just ours. I know just the place. Epilogue. 1 year later. The research lab at Seoul National University was exactly what I'd always dreamed of: state-of-the-art equipment, a brilliant team, projects that were changing the industry. My bio-based polymers were being used in construction projects across Korea, with interest from international firms. I'd been published in major journals, invited to speak at conferences, recognized as a leader in sustainable materials. But the best part of my day was always when Tae-hyun showed up at closing time, leaning against the doorframe with that crooked smile that still made my heart race. Ready to go home? He asked. Home, our apartment in Hanam-dong, close enough to his father but separate enough to be our own space. A place filled with my books and his vinyl collection, my research notes scattered across the dining table, his terrible attempts at cooking Korean food. Almost. Let me just finish these calculations. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. You said that an hour ago. This time I mean it. You said that too. I laughed, saving my work and shutting down the computer. Okay, now I'm ready. As we drove home, Tae-hyun told me about his day. A successful pitch to investors, progress on a new development project he was managing for his father's company. He'd moved back to Seoul permanently 6 months ago, taking over as VP of operations while Yi-won stepped back slightly. How's your dad doing? I asked. It was a question I asked often, still worried about the man I'd hurt. Good, actually, really good. He's been seeing someone. I turned to stare at him. What? Since when? A few months now. Her name is Dr. Yoon Hae-won. She's a physicist at KAIST. They met at a conference, started talking about your research actually, and hit it off. He wanted to tell you himself, but he was nervous about how you'd react. I'm happy for him. He deserves to find someone. That's what I told him. He's bringing her to dinner this weekend, so you'll get to meet her. The thought of the 4 of us at dinner, me, Tae-hyun, Yi-won, and his new girlfriend, should have been awkward. But somehow it was. We'd all moved on, found our own paths to happiness. Later that night, after dinner and a movie, Tae-hyun and I sat on our balcony, looking out at the Seoul skyline. He pulled me close, and I breathed in his familiar scent. Do you ever regret it? He asked quietly. The way things happened, the complications. Sometimes, I regret hurting your father. I regret the time we lost. But I don't regret where we ended up. Neither do I. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box that made my heart start racing. Which is why I want to make sure we don't lose any more time. Tae-hyun. I know it's only been a year since the annulment. I know people will talk about the timeline, about how fast this is. But I've known for 2 years that you're it for me, Amara. You're my person. You're my home. And I don't want to wait any longer to make it official. He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant and unique. Amara Collins, will you marry me? For real this time, with no secrets, no complications, just us. I looked at the ring, at his hopeful face, at the life we'd built together from the ashes of chaos. And I realized that sometimes the most complicated path leads to the simplest truth. Yes, I said, laughing through tears. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed me, long and deep and full of promise. No disappearing this time, I said when we broke apart. Never again, I'm yours completely, forever. And as we sat under the Seoul stars, planning a future that had seemed impossible a year ago, I realized that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest love stories. I'd married a rich older guy only to discover he was my ex's father. It should have been a disaster. Instead, it was the beginning of everything.